Okay.
Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful, oh, oh, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my body. Oh, oh, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go, it won't let go. Something wonderful, ooh, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Can you feel it? Something wonderful, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And all this love inside, we can't let it shine. Something wonderful, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now, right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I'm gonna break it down a little bit. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Big finish. Something wonderful.
Welcoming to the stage my wonderful guest star, Harold Payne.
Thank you. We're doing another.
Yeah, let's do another.
Okay. There's a. If you want to participate on this, there's a little clap moment, and there's also a repeating of the word unconditional love, which I'm sure you're all imbued with. Something with which you're all imbued. Didn't want to end that sentence with a preposition. Okay. Unconditional, unconditional love, unconditional, unconditional love, oh, unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, you got it, unconditional, unconditional love, when you give without expectation. Unconditional love, you are sending out positive vibrations. Unconditional love and the joy it brings changes everything. Oh, oh. unconditional, unconditional love, unconditional, unconditional love, oh, unconditional, unconditional love, oh, unconditional, unconditional love. When your heart is willing and open, unconditional love, then the chain of love just cannot be broken. No, unconditional love, and the circle grows as the Spirit flows. Oh, oh. Unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, yeah, unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, yeah, unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love. You're doing a great job of clapping with the groove, yeah. Even though it's kind of a syncopated reggae beat, you seem to make the right move, yeah. Unconditional love and the joy it brings helps me stay in time when you clap when I sing. Hey, hey, hey. Unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, oh, unconditional, unconditional, unconditional love, yeah, unconditional. Unconditional love, one more. Unconditional, unconditional love, unconditional.
Please welcome to the Beamer, Reverend Dr. Keith Cox.
Yes, good morning. Hello. Did you hear that, Mr. Payne? Once they finished clapping for you, they didn't clap for me.
No, they were clapping, but it was singing.
Oh, they were tired of clapping. That's what it is. I got it. Good morning, everyone. And happy Sunday. How is everybody today? Good. Me too. Say what? It is beautiful. It's beautiful inside and outside, right? Aw. Well, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. You've already been blessed by the music of Harold Payne. We're so happy to have him here with us today. And the one and only Andy Belling, of course. Yes. And we are the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. We're a metaphysical-based New Thought community that comes together every Sunday morning. We've been around for about 30 years, and we practice primarily the teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes through the science of mind. It's known in its most modern incarnation as a philosophy, a faith, and a way of life. The philosophy is that there's only one power that exists in the universe. Matters not what you call it, but we know that as you call it and when you call it, the more and more you experience it because you are one with it. That's the philosophy part. The faith is the having an outward experience in life that's equal to our inner, and by developing our inner, then that particular consciousness that we develop must show up in the outer. And so we learn through that faith of the law of life that we get to play a part in our co-creative process. And the more that we use our mentality, our emotionality, our spirituality, if you will, consciously, then the external will show up in a way that reflects that inner, which is the way of life. It's by becoming aware of how we think and believe and act and react and interact, not only with life itself, but as the very thing that is life, which we oftentimes call God. And so we're happy you're here today. I'm happy that each and every one of you decided to get out of your abode and out of your bed and get dressed and hopefully get cleaned and show up, whether you're here with us in person or if you're joining us via live stream. Hello to those that are on the live streamers or Facebook Live that Jesus is running today in the front of the house. So thank you, Jesus. And as our beloved founding minister, Dr. David Walker, used to say each and every Sunday morning, we welcome one and we welcome all. And so just turn around and say hi to somebody seated around you today. We don't do that as a rule, but it felt good today, right? Hi, Andy. Good. Good. So we open our celebratory service every Sunday morning. As you'll see, we have lots of canines again today. We're happy to have people's four-legged spiritual offspring. So you may hear them chat a little bit. That's Cupid letting his mom know that he's protecting her in the back. So that's cool. We also have Snoopy in the back, and we have Sunny as well. So that's what we got going on for a moment. So we open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual that's called Calling in the Light. And the aspects of it changes each and every Sunday, the content, but the actual ritual itself stays the same. And the reason for that is so that we can surrender to the very power that is within us, to align ourselves with the repetition of that energy of calling in the light, of allowing our subconscious to rise up with that statement of I'm calling in the light. But to hear it anew each Sunday morning, since we do it as a ritual every Sunday morning. And so today's ritual of calling in the light is reflective of the original way that this ritual was put together, which was called lighting the flames of faith. And today I'm going to go through those flames of faith, those religions in this ritual. And I not only encourage you, but I invite you to hear the words in a new way today. And if at all possible for you to bring forth in your mind's eye, or to allow the divine within you to bring up the face of someone that would represent in your mind what someone that practices this particular religion I speak of looks like or feels like, and send love to them and receive that love back in return. And so the ritual itself is not only my reading words, but you'll get a chance to sing a little song and call and response, and then I'll close with what's called a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. And I'm your practitioner of the day, so I'll take us through that. Our illuminator is one of our board members and longtime members of the center, Sandy Rovetta, so I'd like to invite her up to the bema. And so if you're open to it, take a deep breath and just center yourself and anchor in, and go ahead and close your eyes and ready yourself for your mind to guide you into this expression and experience of not only the words that you hear, but the visuals that show up. So you can begin. So the purpose of the ritual this morning is to draw into our gathering a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities that we each possess as complete expressions of the divine. Today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings, come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. The first candle that Sandy lights is for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, also known as the natural way. And so, all right, let's all just take a deep breath, please, and just stay in this moment, letting the laughter just be an opportunity to take us a little deeper. Bringing into our mind's eye an individual who practices the Tao, the natural way. As we move to the second candle, which is illuminated for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. As we move to the third candle, allowing our mind's eye to bring up an individual or people that practice Hinduism. As you look into their eyes, seeing the same light that exists within you and me. Honoring Hinduism, the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Moving to the fourth candle that Sandy lights, it's for Judaism. Feel the energy of those who practice in this room, whose life is being honored and acknowledged by the names on the walls. Judaism is known as the ethical path of living by sacred law. So we move to the fifth candle that Sandy lights for Buddhism. You may know someone in your life who practices Buddhism. Bring their face up in your mind's eye as we honor Buddhism, knowing it's the Four Noble Truths and is the path of compassion. Moving to the sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity. Allow in your mind's eye someone who practices the Christian faith to show up. Maybe someone that you've disagreed with. And take a moment and honor the Christ consciousness that exists within them and within each one of us. Honoring this religion in its purest form, which is known as the path of love. We now move to the seventh candle and light it for all forms of Islam. Taking a moment to envision and honor an individual or individuals that practice this faith with compassion and intelligence and wisdom, knowing that in its purest form, it's known for honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. Moving to the eighth candle. We light this candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and of peace. We move to the ninth candle, honoring all forms of new thought, which is what we practice here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. Bring into your mind's eye the individual that introduced you to this philosophy and teaching. And in so doing, honor them and the teaching itself, which is known as the metaphysical path for mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles, which moves us to the 10th candle, the healing candle. I invite you to put into the flame of this candle anyone that you would like to experience the light of the healing flame. And in so doing, we put the name of two of our congregants in here, Jenny Ventris and Reverend Edward Brown, so that they, along with each and every individual that walks this planet, may experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
I am love.
I am love.
I am peace.
I am peace.
In my heart.
In my heart.
I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together.
All together.
We are whole.
We are whole. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. And so it is.
so it is.
We feel this shift in energy that has transpired in this room already this morning, from the laughter to the contentment to the awakening to the awareness to the vibrations of the music. We let it be a reminder to us that there's only one thing ever taking place. We shall name it and call it love right now. Love, not just in that human expression of emotion, but love as defined by Dr. Ernest Holmes as the self-givingness of spirit whose desire is to create more of itself out of itself. And the only way that it can do that is through the individual, and it's doing it right now by means of you and me. And each and every individual that is walking this planet, regardless of their faith. The very power itself is not bound by belief, ideology, faith, or even physicality. And so as practicing conscious, awakened metaphysicians, we use our mind with power, with intention and in purpose to invoke healing, as Ernest calls it, a revealing of that which already is. And so we declare and demand perfection and wholeness and completeness for all. In this moment, and with a deep faith, allow the law of life to bring that into experience. And so knowing that that is transforming, I speak my word for each of us as we settle into this room with a deep sense of trust, knowing that we're here by divine appointment, meaning that we're supposed to be here together at this time, hearing the music, feeling and hearing the message, being grateful to be in the presence of each other, and allowing this love to magnify itself. And so we release this affirmative prayer unto the law of life, knowing that it must return to us in form. And with a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to participate in the co-creation of our life experience, we simply let it be. And affirm it as we say together. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. Very much so. And Harold and Andy. And each one of you. Some of you have come in as we began, so welcome for those of you that have arrived, and know that we're here today to celebrate life itself, and happy to do that. I love hearing Harold Payne sing, and he's here today to share some great songs with us. The first one you're singing is?
Share the Dream.
The one that I was talking about before I heard it?
Yes, that you heard at
I was
Asilomar.
telling him this morning, I remember hearing that at Asilomar, which is the annual gathering of our philosophy and faith, which was probably 15, 20 years ago,
When I
maybe?
first started
Long
going,
time
yes,
ago, yeah. So it's good. So I've known this man for a long time, happy to have him back here today, bringing his talent and his wisdom and his heart and his life. So please appreciate and welcome Harold Payne along with Andy Belly.
I think I just went. I want to be in tune for you here, so. I'm going to take just a moment here. It wasn't tune, I swear. Close enough. There's a winding road where I learned to run. Where the race is long, but it can be won. With every step we're taking, with every choice we're making, with every bend in the road, we get stronger. We can reach up, we can reach out, we can show this world what we're all about. We can do anything we put our minds to. We can be anything we want to be. Oh, street where I used to play. But I found my wings and I can fly away. Below the street lights fading, ahead is my future waiting. Beyond the doubts and the fears, I can see it. Oh, I can see it. Hey, we can reach up, we can reach out, we can show this world what we're all about. We can do anything we put our minds to. We can be anything we want to be. Oh, we must believe we can share the dream. We can share the dream, we can share the dream. Yes, we can. We can share the dream, we can share the dream. Ooh, yeah. We can share the dream, we can share the dream. Share it, yeah. We can share the dream, we can share the dream. We can share the dream, we can share the dream. Sharing our future, share the dream, we can share the dream. Oh, we can reach up, we can reach out. We can show this world what we're all about. We can do anything we put our minds to. We can be anything we want to be. Hey, we can reach up, we can reach out. We can show this world what we're all about. We can do anything we put our minds to. We can be anything we want to be. Oh, we must believe we can share the dream. We can reach up.
Payne, ladies and gentlemen, along with Andy Belling. Thank you. Perfect lyrics for metaphysical meaning. We can reach up and we can share the dream. The key to it first is you got to have the dream so you can share it. That's what it's all about. So I'm sure you all have heard the expression, go with the flow. Who's heard that? Who's ever said it here, right? Well, stop it. No, I'm just kidding. So who's ever heard the saying of, we're going to ride the wave, man, ride the wave of life, cowabunga dude, right? Sure, you've also heard the expression, well, it is what it is, right? Anybody ever said that? A little BS there. So today I'm going to have us look at this from a new perspective, to know that this expression of it is what it is doesn't mean that we can experience life differently or put it another way. In other words, just as Harold was just sharing with us, is that we can reach up, we can reach out, we can share the dream, is that as awakened metaphysicians, my assumption, we are all awakened to the truth here, that we are drawn to this teaching because what it invokes us to do, gives us the impetus for, what it awakens within us, as I said earlier, is that we have the ability to impact the co-creation of our lives through our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our reactions, and our interactions with the very thing itself, Ernest Holmes calls it, which is life. That we have so much power, and for us to remember that we have power in our thoughts and our words and our deeds. And it's important in life to stop sometimes and to just honor ourselves. And know that what you're doing may be the best that you can be doing in that moment. But then to reset and to refresh and to rethink and then to redo and then to revive, and not just go with life and to go with the flow, but to choose to grow with the flow as life is unfolding. Yeah, so that... Take it in, Dr. Neal. Clap. Grow with the flow, right? Did I do that right, Walter? No. So to not buy into race mind consciousness. Really what it is when we're told to go with the flow, or life is what it is, or let's just ride the wave of life, cowabunga dude. I added that part. I said, is that yes, it's important for us to know that life is unfolding all the time, but we at all times are at choice, no matter what shows up. And for this to be our way of life as consciously awakened metaphysicians that are finding our personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, our vision statement here requires us to be in tune with what's going on in our mind. It requires us to be in tune with what we believe to be true of ourselves, of individualized expressions of the only thing that there is, which is the divine. I was speaking with someone recently who has a challenge, and I reached up and I hugged this individual and I said to them, have things, crappy things, shown up in your life before? And they said yes. And I said, did you get through them? And they said yes. And that's what's important for us to know, that no matter what shows up, the very power within us gives us the opportunity to transcend the condition itself, because the power itself that we are individualized expressions of is already innately transcendent of the very condition or circumstance that's showing up. It's important for us that if we want to live a life where we are growing with the flow and not just going with the flow, it is incumbent upon us to have a new mindset, one that is more purposeful, one that is more intentional, and one that is more clear than ever before. Once again, our vision statement here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, which has been the same for my ministry in some edit way, is to support individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. What that means is, as you navigate all aspects of life, you're presented with an opportunity each and every day, each and every activity, each and every moment to stop and think anew. And to remember, as Dennis P. Kimbrough says, is that life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% to how we react to it. Now, whether that's a statistic that's true or not, if we were to just use it as a baseline, imagine that 90% you're experiencing in the outer world, 90% of how you react to life itself. Which then really makes you want to think. How are you thinking? Right? Like David Walker used to say, and I may get this wrong, but what are you thinking? Are you aware of what you are thinking? Are you willing to have the experience of the very thing that you're thinking right now? Woo. But what's important for us to remember, if the answer to that is no, then you can change your thinking in that very moment. You can change it in that very moment and choose to not just go with the flow, but to grow with the flow. The overarching definition of go with the flow is this: to do what other people are doing, or to agree with other people because it's the easiest thing to do. How often do we find ourselves in life going with the flow because it's the easiest thing to do, or we're not even really aware that we're doing it because it has become the norm in life to just let life happen, to just let it happen. To just let it happen. And you might even be doing that, hiding behind the guise of saying, I am an awakened metaphysician, and so therefore what's showing up in my external is a reflection of the very work that I've done. And yet, that may be true, and the nature of spirit is, don't get lazy. I can speak from my own personal experience. In that very moment when it's showing up the way that you think it should be showing up because you've done your work, It's like, ask yourself, then how can I go higher in my consciousness so that I can go deeper into my soul, so that not only am I having a very wonderful, spirit-filled, reflective of my divinity experience, but that I'm radiating that in such a way that the pathway before me is illumined and all in front of me are experiencing the very thing and more that I am experiencing and expressing. To move it beyond the individualized experience and take it into a true understanding of this philosophy and faith and way of life, which is that there's only one thing ever taking place, and that's the activity of God or Source or the thing itself or Beulah or Jerry or whatever it is you want to call it. But it indeed is happening, and so am I, the individual, not only living my power, the presence, the life, the light itself, but as I grow with the flow, there is a tidal wave that's coming from me, and everything and everyone in my presence is a reflection of that very tidal wave. That is using this process, this mind, this life, this power in a way for good on our planet. And I know that our planet needs it right now. Do you guys agree with that? It needs it. So are you going to choose today to then live in a state of growth as the flow of life unfolds? Well, growth is defined as the process of development or maturing physically, mentally, or spiritually. So when I'm talking about growing with the flow of life today, it is from the perspective of, with purpose and intention, of stepping into the development, the maturation process, if you will, of not only our mentality, but of our spirituality. Now, it's important for us to understand that we can't be any more spiritual than we already are, meaning that the nature of spirit that we are imbued with, that we express, that is the very thing of life itself within us, can never be taken away from or added to. It is already there. However, we can express a lot more of it. We can experience a lot more of it. And we get to do that being consciously aware of how we're showing up in life and whether or not we're choosing to show up in life in a state of growth, of development, of maturing, not only in our mental state, as I said before, a spiritual state, but how we show up and act and react and interact. This week was a great opportunity to ask ourselves of that simply by watching what was taking place politically. I'm not going to say anything else about it. But that gives us an opportunity to say, what am I really believing or thinking here? Am I really stepping into growth? Now, the late Wilma, and I'm going to give you her name because it's just worth saying, the great late Wilma Mankiller, a hero and mentor of this individual who wrote this article, was speaking on growth and wrote this. Said, growth can be a painful process. If we're ever going to grapple with the problems that we have collectively, we're going to have to move back the veil and deal with each other on a more human and humane level. Her words remind me that there is another, more abstract understanding of growth that takes into account the human element. Maturation, clarification, and deepening. So what we're being called for here is to mature into our understanding of life itself, to mature into our understanding and acceptance of who we are as divine beings, to move into a mature manner in which how we engage in and approach life, to live from a place of clarification, in other words, becoming clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer with each and every thought, belief, action, reaction, and interaction in life. And what it is incumbent upon us to be clear on is that there's only one power, and that we individualize it, and that we both express it and experience through our thoughts and our beliefs. That is the very foundation of this teaching, with the last piece, which is we live in a universe that is governed by spiritual law, physical laws such as gravity. Spiritual laws is that we experience life relative to our thoughts, through the state of our consciousness. And the third piece of that is the deepening piece, which is that as we desire for our consciousness to evolve into a higher state of its own awareness, our awareness of it, then we must go deeper and deeper and deeper into our soul. In other words, we must move into that place where our mind is and the voice stops, and we know that we know that we know that we know this spiritual truth. And then it's from there we engage in life. It's from there that we begin to change our mind. It's from there that we begin to choose a new perspective. It's from there that we begin to play with our level of faith in the very power itself and the law of life and how we're using it and what levels of love that we can give. Not that human love, but the agape love of honoring the oneness, of where we can choose to express forgiveness where we thought that was an impossibility. That's how we move into this place of growing with the flow of life itself, to remember that at all times we are at choice. Oh, you guys are going to hear me give you one of my favorite quotes of all times. You've all heard it many, many times, so I think it's important and appropriate in this very moment, and it's from Gary Zukav, from The Seat of the Soul, and he writes, "Choice is the engine of evolution. If you choose unconsciously, you will evolve unconsciously, but if you choose consciously, you will evolve consciously. Choosing to evolve consciously is much better than unconsciously, and most often far less painful." He goes on to write, "Trust me, been there, done that. The power of choice is the greatest gift you've been given, second only to the gift of life itself." So take that in, because what he's really saying to us is choice is the engine of our growth. If you choose unconsciously, you will grow unconsciously. If you choose consciously, you will grow consciously. Choosing to grow with the flow consciously is much better than unconsciously, and most often far less painful. And that we've been given, this power of choice, it never goes away, is the greatest gift we've been given, second only to the gift of life itself. Well, that's a big statement, but also one that I believe is true and is one that matters to us when we realize the very power that we have when we choose to use our ability to choose in a way that is reflective of the innate nature of the divine that already exists within us. We don't have anything to do to use or create the power of life, the greatest gift is already there. But we get to use that second greatest gift really wonderfully and impactfully and intentionally and purposely. The great 17th and 18th century French Enlightenment writer, poet Voltaire writes, "God gave us the gift of life. It is up to us to give ourselves the gift of living well." Ernest, as in Holmes, addresses it in this way: use the thought that life cannot become paralyzed or inactive. Life, this power, is forever present in its fullness. Therefore, where any form of inaction appears, we should endeavor to recognize and realize the presence of life in action. In other words, what he's telling us is to realize anywhere in our life that we're taking life itself for granted, stop it. To wake up and play with the very power that exists within us, and the only way that we can do that is through our mind, through our actions, how we show up in life, how we give the gift of life to others, and how we give it to ourselves. To move from fear to flow, of growing with the flow, here's how the Buddhists address it in the book, Fear and Flow. The Buddhists have a good piece of advice: act always as if the future of the universe depended on what you did, while laughing at yourself for thinking that whatever you can do makes any difference. I'm going to read that again. The Buddhists have a good piece of advice. Act always as if the future of the universe depended on what you did, while laughing at yourself for thinking that whatever you do makes any difference. It is this serious playfulness, a combination of concern and humility, that makes it possible to be both engaged and carefree at the same time. One does not need to win to feel content. Helping to maintain order in the universe becomes its own reward, regardless of the consequences. Joel Kramer writes in regards to this, the evolutionary question is how to live with fear intelligently, effectively, and consciously in these fearful times. It's essential to get to know any fear in a way that does not depress or paralyze you emotionally or freeze responsible action. What they're telling us here is that as we engage in this process of growing with the flow, of living on the edge, of using our spiritual in a way to become a conscious evolutionist, and in so doing impact not only our life, but all of life itself, that there is a likelihood that fear may show up. But as Dr. Walker used to say, all it's telling you is you need to know more about what it is that you're dealing with or what's showing up. Don't run from it, sit in it. Stand in it. Feel it. And ask it, what the WTF? What the fear? Why the fear? And then begin to transform it. But the only way we can do that is by staying in the flow as we're growing with the flow. This great author, Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, I practiced it 3 times. I still don't know if I got it right. Addresses flow in this way. He says that flow is the state of using life's stuff to go from going with the flow to growing with the flow. The remarkable studies of him reveal that a dynamic state called flow can be achieved not only by the rare saint or mystic, but by a wide variety of people engaged in concentrated activities. The activities can be as diverse as playing a musical instrument, mountaineering, martial arts, yoga, sports, or various kinds of work. Such people are said to have an autotelic personality. They're willing to go through a phase of activation energy, perhaps half an hour sometimes, that leads into the experience of flow. Some can use this ability to lead a fulfilling life despite low social status or financial rewards. The common element is that whatever activity produces a flow state, in other words, a state of when you're in your awareness of your divinity, becomes its own reward. It elicits a sense of timelessness and security. It catalyzes growth beyond the boundaries of self-ego. Certain people have developed personal flow to the extent that they can translate most or all potential threats into useful challenges. Flow, we're speaking of, can evidently become much more rewarded than passive entertainment and resolve the conundrum of psychic entropy. What about environmental fear? A useful way to look at fear, he writes, and flow, living in a state of awareness of the divine, is an embedded pair of opposites within mindful awareness. Thich Nhat Hanh addresses it this way. When we're living in this flow and fear shows up, he says, touching the ultimate dimension, we feel happy and comfortable like the birds enjoying the blue sky or the deer enjoying the green fields. We know that we do not have to look for the ultimate outside of ourselves. It is available within us in this very moment. What they're speaking of here is that for you and I to grow with the flow, it's important for us to make a commitment to go into the flow of life. That state of awareness that we know that nothing can hurt us, nothing can harm us, nothing can change us, but that as we stay in this state of awareness that the divine is all there is, and we all know that. You all know that feeling when you're in the flow of your divinity, correct? Right? That to get into that and to stay in that sometimes isn't immediate. However, it's important for us to still step into the process of awakening ourselves and trusting with faith that it will show up. And that the process itself is rewarding enough. Now, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, addresses the components of flow in this way. He says that one step may be apathy, which is comparable to a state of indifference and a lack of interest. Another may be boredom, no interest in your surroundings, you're dull or fatigued. Another may be relaxation, calm, or the absence of excitement. Another may be worry. By worrying, the attention is shifted towards negativity, and imaginary problems become bigger and solutions do not seem to exist. Control. By practicing, skills become automations with the risk that skill levels is higher than the challenge to perform a certain risk. Anxiety may be present, which is that may cause someone to freeze and stagnate. And then there's arousal. By increased stimuli, people respond more attentively to their environment. He's saying all of these may be states of awareness or experience that may show up while we are developing and building to move into flow itself. And when you get into the flow, it is a mental state in which you're completely focused on the activity or the task which is being carried out successfully because it's not you doing it, it's the very power of the divine that is within you. But for that to happen, we must know without a shadow of a doubt that the power is there. That it's there. And we're told it's there in the great book, the Bible. In Peter, verse 1, 3 through 8, chapter 1, 3 through 8. And I'm going to augment it so that it's not written in Christian terminology. And it says this: the divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness through our knowledge of it, who called us by its own glory and goodness. Through these, it has given us a very great and precious promise, so that through this promise you may participate in the divine nature and escape the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. What we're being told here is we begin in this process of awakening to our ability to grow with the flow by starting off with faith in the goodness of the power. And as we add all the other things to that we're being told in this process, is that we end up with love. The very power itself, self-givingness of itself, to itself, through itself. And the only way it can do that is through you and through me. So the cycle is that we're being called as we grow with the flow of life itself to stay centered in our acceptance and our awareness of the very thing that gives us the ability to stay centered in our awareness of its existence, and that's the power of the divine. And so today I invite you to commit and to give yourself permission to live in a new way that is not just second nature to life of going with the flow, but making a commitment to use your mind and your heart and your soul and your being to grow, to expand, to evolve, to develop mentally, emotionally, and in so doing, you will reveal your spiritual nature, which is one of perfection. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Andy. Welcome back. Well, what a pleasure to have Harold Payne and Andy Belling back, right? How about a round of applause for these two lovelies?
You might have noticed me furiously writing over there, and because sometimes I do recap improv. And I did plan a little something last night. I came home from my gig at midnight, but I needed to embellish with, because I had no idea what he was going to say about that. I can act as if the universe depends on what I do, and laugh at knowing that's not true. But if I act a little more and react a little less, I can still be my best. Live, 'cause life is a moving target. I choose for my soul to evolve and not just park it. Got to go with the flow. Keep learning as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. Go with the flow. Creativity's a gift that keeps on giving. When you need to make a shift the way that you're living, you got the wisdom inside that will always provide the spark that you need to keep you up to speed with the changing world. You got to go with the flow. Keep learning as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. And go with the flow. I can just ride the wave that I've been riding and just say the same cowabunga. It could be way more exciting. I can just continue to do what all the other people do, just 'cause it's easy, and never try to see me as I could be. Got to go with the flow. Keep learning as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. And go with the flow. Nothing stands still, nothing stays the same. So there's only one way to stay in the game, yeah. You got to go with the flow. Keep learning as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. And go with the flow. Let's break it down just a little bit. Go with the flow. Keep learning as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. Cowabunga, go with the flow. Whether you're in Hollywood or Tahunga, don't let the world pass you by. It's better than saying Cucamonga. Hey, you got to go with the flow. With Karoshi or whatever it is. Let keeping as you go. Don't let the world pass you by. Get on board and enjoy the ride. Go with the flow.
Yes, yes. Harold Payne, I love it. I love it. You are fantastic.
Just tapping into you.
I'm tapping into you, baby. Cowabunga into hunga. All right. Right. I love it.